In this video, I want to talk about how to trigger Zapier from PaintScout when additional work is accepted. So if you've been using PaintScout for a while, or maybe you just started and you have customers accepting additional work and you need to know how to get Zapier to actually do something, that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Chris. I am the owner of Boolean Automation. We work with painting companies to free them up to do what they love. And the primary way that we do that is by helping them identify the correct technology stack or software that they need to run their business. And I've got a spoiler for you. The right technology is dependent on what you're trying to do in your business, how big you are, how fast you want to grow, who you have on your team, the overhead, the office staff that you have. We help you navigate all that, all the way down from a couple $1 million painting company up to $10, $15 million painting companies or painting franchises that have consulted with us before. That's what we're here for. So if that's of interest, grab a time down in our description below on our calendar. We'd be happy to chat. Zapier and PaintScout, great tools. PaintScout has a Zapier integration. They've been rapidly making improvements and updates to it. So today I want to talk about a common problem that I see people having, and that is inside the quote here. Let me share my screen. So we've got a quote here. I'm going to just run through a scenario here. Let's say that I have the estimate here. I'm going to send this to the customer, pretend I just sent it. Now the customer is going to accept. So they accept the quote. And what you are going to see is that in here, I have a PaintScout trigger that is when the quote is accepted. This is a trigger that PaintScout has had for a long time. But one thing that's important to note is that this trigger happens when the quote status changes. So if you look at your PaintScout quote, what happens in this particular case is that the quote was originally in these are the various statuses that it can be in. So I had it in sent, and then I just sent it to the customer, and then they viewed it. And then when I accept, that's what I want to know as the painting company. When do they accept the quote? So it just went into the accepted stage or status. So now I have my Zap here, and I can look at the Zap history, and I can see that. Go ahead and refresh this. So my Zap runs. I can see that 1 minute ago, I had the quote status changed to accepted. So this ran. Great, right? So now let's say that a month goes by and the customer asks for some additional work to be added. So there's a couple different ways that I see people doing it. You can add the additional work here, or you can add the additional work down below in the options. So if I add the additional work down here, we're going to say this is for the stairwell. They changed their mind and they said they now want to do the stairwell. So I'm adding in the stairwell here. And then I can click move to additional work. So now I can send this quote back to the customer. And you'll notice that when I do send this, I'm going to put in. So when I do send this to the customer, it's going to make me put an email in as well. Chris@helloboolean.com. So when I send this to the customer, notice the status is still accepted. So status is still accepted. The pending work is down here. When I go preview and accept, this is what the customer would see. You'd see this accept additional work. So now I go ahead and sign again. They accept. And I go back and wait for my Zap trigger to fire. And I'm going to give you a spoiler. It's not going to fire because the status of your quote did not change. So this was the original. There's the additional work, but the status has remained accepted the entire time. So what do you do about that? Well, some of my clients came up with the solution of after a customer accepted additional work, they resend the quote to themselves to get the sent trigger to fire, because the PaintScout sent trigger fires every single time that it's sent. The quote accepted is only accepted one time, and so it doesn't continue to fire when other things are accepted or when additional work items are accepted. However, PaintScout just came out with this week, and this is why I'm making this video, the additional work accepted PaintScout trigger. So I'm going to show you what this looks like when you're in here, and you can see that the additional trigger is just called quote additional work accepted. And that additional work means that or this trigger means that anytime additional work is accepted, this is going to fire. So what I wanted to know is what information comes across when that additional work is accepted. And so I had this set up in the background while we were just doing what we did. And you can see here that we're going to ignore these quote number 10s because I've been making a couple videos. So we have these two different quotes here. The first one fired when the trigger that caused it to fire was the quote accepted, which is what we saw. And in here, we saw that Zap run. The second time when the customer accepted the additional work, it came in through the additional work accepted trigger. So this is pretty cool. They now show, or they have the ability to trigger Zapier when additional work is accepted. So be aware of that. There's that new feature that's coming out, or that is out now for everybody to use. There are some pitfalls, and I'm going to make a separate video of some challenges that I still see with the additional work. So you can check that out in the comments or in the description. I'll link to that other video of problems that I see with the additional work. Kind of go into a deep dive. It's very technical, but the good news for all of you using the additional work feature, Zapier does now have an additional work accepted trigger, and it works great as long as the work is only accepted one time. If there's additional work accepted at multiple stages, things can get a little hairy. But as long as you're just firing off a notification or an email or something saying, hey, more work was accepted, I think it actually works pretty well. And it's a nice addition to the PaintScout Zap. Hopefully you found that valuable. Let me know, what else would you like to know how to do in PaintScout as far as automations go, or understanding it and better utilizing it. We are here at Boolean to help people integrate all of their apps together, including PaintScout, or whatever other estimating tool or CRM or project management you're using. If it's a painting software, we probably know how to integrate with it, and we'd be happy to chat with you. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Chris. This is Boolean, and we'll see you in the next video.